With you, Kelvin, your thoughts on the BBC, Gary Lineker, and of course Tim Davie?
Well, he was right in the first place to suspend him, or I was hoping just fire him. I mean, afterwards, he'd triple his money and he could talk whatever he likes for wherever he likes. But what he can't do is talk on my money. I don't want to contribute money through a tax to somebody who's saying something I don't agree with. I just don't want to pay my money like that. In terms of television, if he wants to do it on ITV or Talk Sport or anywhere, by all means, be my guest. But it's not a free speech issue. This is a rule within the BBC, like any corporation, BT Sport or Unilever. If you start saying stuff which you think actually casts a shadow over your business, boom, you're gone. What I fear now is because they are basically a collection of lovies, and that, God bless him, the Director General or the Chief Executive, as he would be in another business, now is seeing a pushback against him by the staff. Me, I wouldn't care less. Let them all go. I agree with you. There's people working for Bristol Rovers or Wigan or some small National League team who would be delighted to give their views, which would have as much impact as the Shearers and the right, who are being paid 400 grand a pop to basically say good goal, square ball, nice pass. So actually, he should stay strong. If he doesn't stay strong on it and comes up with some kind of patch thing, I don't think he's a suitable manager, and he should go as well. So stay strong. And I also see a significant issue coming down the track that if Lineker comes back, by the way, unencumbered by rules of the company, then actually the bottom line on this is I could see a lot of people starting to say, ordinary people who don't agree with his views, saying, I tell you what I'm going to do, I'm not going to pay the licence fee. So that's my next wing. We are going to go on strike. Forget about you going on strike.
Peter, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think Gary Lineker did break the rules, but Tim Davie, the head of the BBC, has got to consider his position. And if you think about all the groups he works with, well, his own staff, he's lost the confidence of them, judging by the WhatsApp messages leaked to newspapers about the backroom boys and backroom girls. He's lost the confidence of the presenters, who had a de facto walkout and didn't appear this weekend. And he's lost the confidence of viewers, football fans like me, who love Match of the Day. And what we saw last night was not Match of the Day. It was just a pale imitation of some footage put together with no commentary or analysis. So I think Tim Davie has got to consider his position, because you used the word meltdown, which is absolutely right. Sometimes the word crisis is overused, but Gary Lineker broke the rules, and then the BBC completely mishandled this and got themselves into a much worse position. So it is a meltdown. But
what should they have done then, in your view?
Well, I think they should have enforced the rules, if they're going to have them, consistently, because Gary Lineker has been tweeting about politics for 6 or 7 years. And personally, if you take out the 1930s comparison, which I think is inappropriate, I agree with him on lots of the substance. But
well, I think that was the problem, was it? The fact that he took the comparisons, and also the fact that he works at the BBC, so he's not supposed to be...
Well, no, there's two different issues. The Jewish community in Britain, to my mind, quite correctly protested about the 1930s parallel, but that wasn't the reason for his suspension. We're told stepping aside, but it was a suspension. It was because he expressed a view on essentially party politics. But he's been doing that for years. And as Kelvin alluded to, there are other broadcasters who write tweets and give opinions from the left or the right or any different perspective. So the BBC is in a complete mess over its impartiality, and that's before you even get to the point about the people running the BBC, several of whom, their executives, have Conservative Party backgrounds.
Well, I got in trouble for saying something on another channel, not even on the BBC, as a freelancer, and I lost 2 shows on it, so I'm not happy about that either. And I actually left because I couldn't speak out about anything, and I'm very glad that I found GBNews. But don't you think that it's quite hypocritical of the BBC that it's got the likes of Lord Sugar, Karen Brady? Calvin, do you think that that's a similar situation these guys have expressed their views?
Yeah, look, I'm in favour of boot Lord Sugar straight off. I wouldn't think twice about it. So I'm not worried about. He's got enough money and enough. He's old enough. He's as old as me. He can get on with his life. I couldn't care less. I'm not in favour of Sharp remaining as chairman of the BBC either. After all, I applied for that job. And so I'm looking forward to Sharp being booted out so I can reapply. But on a serious matter, he should never have been given the job in the first place. It was quite outrageous. And Boris is a shocker in this respect, absolute shocker. However, it doesn't get away from the single issue, which is that Lineker may well have been doing it for years. This time he crossed a line. God knows why he hadn't crossed the line before. I would have been in favour of getting rid of him years ago, right? And the idea that Match of the Day can't exist without all these people. I agree, it wasn't fantastic, but I watched it, I enjoyed it, because what it was basically giving a V sign, right, to the left, right, and saying we can get on. And so that's why I'm in favour of the strike being defeated. I want it to be defeated in the same way as I want the RMT to be defeated. I don't like the kind of bullying blackmail of these guys. Let them go and work somewhere else. There's loads of people who would love that job at £400,000 to go to Salford once a week to say good, nice pass, poor pass. It's ridiculous.
Peter, you're shaking your head.
It's not bullying, and I wouldn't call it a strike either. It's certainly a walkout. I don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised if Gary Lineker was in the National Union of Journalists, as I used to be when I was a newspaper reporter. But this, to me, is not really about left and right. This is about the BBC getting itself in a mess initially over its impartiality rules, getting in a mess over several years. I think one thing I do agree with Kelvin on is inconsistency, because Gary Lineker tweeted a lot about other immigration asylum policies and about Brexit, but it's nothing to do with the left. I mean, I think the problem for the BBC is that they've caved into the government, and that didn't involve any input from Keir Starmer. They really panicked when the government became upset about Gary Lineker's tweets. So I think that's what's led to the line being crossed after 6 or 7 years of Gary Lineker's tweeting.
Do you really think...
Can I just say, I don't think that's entirely true. The truth about the matter was, Lineker was told last time, look, mate, you are a famous person. We have a rule that covers that, which says that if you are famous, you've got to be very careful. Well, and by the way, so he got a slap on the wrist for that. This time, he goes the full whole hog and manages to aggravate an entire community and also get it completely and utterly wrong by putting Nazism in there. And the issue, the other issue I would take issue with you on this is that, in fact, if you divide it up into the politics, the migration issue, those in favour of it are basically of the left, and those who are against it are basically of the right. So, there are lots of things in this pot. I am not in favour of paying my tax to hear politics from the left or the right from the BBC. If Sky want to do it, or BT Sport want to do it, or somebody, or GBNews wants to do it, that's fine by me. I'm not paying for it, right? I am paying for it at the BBC. I just don't want it. And I'm sure lots of people are like me.